officials, but the result is contradictory. Huge oil reserve and unprecedented revenue are overshadowed by corrupt practices in the oil and gas sectors, owing to shady deals and mismanagement. The Nigeria Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative is responsible for effectively monitoring the flow of revenue in the oil companies and other operators in the extractive industry. That's the focus of this week's edition of the program. Hello there, thank you for joining us again on the program this week. I'm Gloria Umezuke. The oil and gas industry in Nigeria virtually represents the backbone of the Federation's economy. Now, for years, the nation was dependent on this. But now, the fiscal allocation and statutory disbursement audit by the Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative revealed that Nigeria earned about 30 trillion naira from oil and non-oil revenues between 2007 and 2011. And of course, there's been other audit reports. But I spoke to the Executive Secretary of Nigeria Extractive Industries and Transparency Initiative, that's NEITI, on this audit report. Well, let's show you now a report on the presentation of the audit.
So please come nearer downstairs.
The Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NEITI, has announced that over 30 trillion naira was remitted to the federal government between 2007 and 2011. The amount represents remittances from minerals and non-mineral revenues into the Federation account. According to NEITI, 23.7 trillion naira was released from the minerals sector, while 4.014 trillion naira came from non-mineral revenues during the same period. The country earned another 2.3 trillion naira from value-added tax. The chairman of NEITI, Mr. Ledumite, also used the occasion to clarify reports of under-remittance of funds to the federal account in 2011.
31.15 billion naira was reported by FAC as under-remittance of funds by NNPC as at December 2011. Let me note here, however, that in the process of getting the comments of the covered entities as required by the NEITI Act, we received confirmation that this sum of 31.15 billion naira was subsequently remitted to the Federation account by NNPC in February 2012, outside the period covered by this audit.
Meanwhile, the Executive Secretary of NEITI, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, expressed disappointment over the lack of synergy between government agencies and the Central Bank of Nigeria, which has led to disagreements over what is actually earned and remitted by some agencies.
And there is poor synergy between the various government agencies such as the Ministry of Mines and Steel, Development, the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Nigeria Customs Service, the Nigeria Export Promotion Council, and Mining Cadastral Office in the process of tracking records, tracking revenue of ex-minerals.
The organization urged government to create markets at strategic borders across the country in order to check smuggling of solid minerals out of the country.
Well, joining me now is Mrs. Hajia Zainab Ahmed. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Gloria.
But let's begin this way. Recently, you released two independent audit reports, the one on the solid minerals, 2011, and the fiscal allocation and statutory disbursement audit. And this is coming at this time. I'm wondering why we had about 2 years in between before this came out. Any challenges of any sort?
Well, this audit, the fiscal allocation and statutory disbursement audit, is the first of its kind in Nigeria and also even in the global EITI. It's a very, very bold initiative. The audit is carried out to meet the requirements of the NEITI Act that requires us to report on how revenues from natural resources are applied by various tiers of government, and also how funds are allocated and distributed between the different tiers of government. So it is in meeting with this requirement. It should have come earlier, but it's better late than never. And the next one we'll conduct will be 2012 to 2013, and subsequently it will be annual and therefore regular and more timely.
Basically, just give an overview of that report.
The objective of the audit is to show the transparency and accountability in the disbursement of resources from the Federation account to the various tiers of government, and also to other statutory recipients that receive funds directly from the Federation account, such as the NDDC, PTDF, the Ecological Fund, the Natural Resource Revenue Fund, and the Excess Crude Oil account. It's also to show how the custodians of the funds have managed the whole of the process. And the custodians here are the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Allocation Commission, Budget Office, Ministry of Finance, CBN, NNPC, DPR, and FIRS. This audit also is supposed to cover the 36 states of the Federation. But because we're doing it for the first time, and also because of the limitation of the resources that is available to NEITI, we had to scale down to just 9 pilot states. So we selected states in each of the 6 geopolitical zones of the country, and but with 6 of them being states that received the 13% derivation, because the whole purpose is to show how revenue from the oil and gas industry is utilized.
You know, for the first time we're having the states, about 9 of them. What was the major thing you noticed?
Well, like I said earlier on, the concentration is on reporting on oil and gas revenue. Initially it was difficult trying to get the states to cooperate with the process, because Nigeria being a federation, the states are independent autonomous units, and they were asking why should they be cooperating with a federal government agencies.
Were you expecting that?
We were expecting that. We braced ourselves for it, actually. We did some consultations prior to the commencement of the audit. We met with the Governors Forum Secretariat. We tried to meet with the governors at the Governors Forum, but it didn't work out. So we did some independent approaches, and we called the key players in the states, accountant generals, commissioners of finance, economic planning, auditor general. We put them in a workshop and discussed with them and showed them how the audit is going to be conducted and the benefit that the states themselves will get from this process. So eventually we got cooperation from all of the states, not at the same level, not at the same speed, but we got the information that we required.
And you're satisfied with it?
Yes, for this first tranche, yes. Subsequently, we will be going much deeper than the first one. We had to cover more states, and also the level of the utilization. Now we stopped at just the budget utilization level, and we looked at, we did physical verifications of some chosen projects that are selected on a stratified sample basis, and we did physical checks.
You know, because when we looked at other reports that came out, for especially state offices of the NDDC, we had the report highlighting that the projects were neither identifiable or not scheduled for monitoring and stuff like that. And we're wondering, how did you manage this? How were you able to properly audit this?
For each agency or state that is audited, we designed special templates to collect data from them, and they provided us with the data. And then we now visited them to verify the source of the information that they gave to us. Then the audit process selected some projects to physically visit. So during these visits, GPRS pictures were taken, the information on the schedules were compared to some of the contracts, and it is during this process that we found that the NDDC headquarters and the host states had on their schedules projects that were duplicated on the schedules, and what the audit is therefore calling for is that there should be a reconciliation process between the NDDC and the host communities, and not only that, that there should be a value for money audit to establish whether there is a nexus between what is spent and the value that the host communities are receiving for these projects.
Interesting, because I know again from this report, because we have a lot of things the audit said, and so many discrepancies as well. You also observe that subsidy payment for petroleum and kerosene is still not clear and has not been cleaned up, So we're wondering right now, how deep is the situation, this mess we find ourselves?
Well, for subsidy, what this audit is saying, like also previous NEITI audits, is that subsidies should be paid from the Petroleum Support Fund that is in the Central Bank of Nigeria and managed by the PPPRA. NNPC deducts subsidy at source before remitted to the Federation. So this audit, like other NEITI audits, is saying that should not be so, and that every marketer, including NNPC, should be paid from the same source. But also the audit is saying that the subsidy claims by the marketers, including NNPC, should be audited. This audit scope does not reach to the extent that they could audit the claims that is filed by each marketer and NNPC. So it's recommending that a detailed forensic audit should be made of claims from marketers and from NNPC on subsidies that have been claimed and paid.
Give us an idea of how much the country is saving right now.
Saving from
the entire audit, from the what's it called now, the solid minerals, and even the other one.
The solid minerals industry, the audits show a very interesting development, that revenues from 2010 to 2011 has grown by about 50%. That is very significant potential that we're seeing there, and that shows that some of the reform initiatives that have been started by the Ministry of Mines and Steel are yielding dividends, because the revenue increase is quite fundamental.
What's the increase?
In 2010, the revenue that was collected by the Federation from the solid minerals, and this is royalties and taxes, were about 17 billion naira from the solid minerals industry. In 2011, it grew to 26 billion. So if the reforms continue and the right monitoring mechanism is put in place, it means government revenue from the solid minerals will be increasing at a very, very good rate.
All right, hold on to that thought. We're still with Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, Executive Secretary of Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative. Join us again on this.